What's poppin', fam? Welcome to Don't Touch My Mindset, a podcast that is designed to uplift, inspire, and motivate you, and most importantly, share tools to help you protect that mindset. Well, hello, welcome. Super excited. Another edition of Pivotal Moments. I'm here with a very special guest, someone I can look up and say that's been in the spotlight. Good Morning America, journalist, published author, just is doing amazing things in the world, right? Hilary, and I just asked her how to say her name. I promise you guys. and here it goes. Sheinbaum.
Sheinbaum.
Sheinbaum. Hilary. Hello.
Yeah.
All right. I did it like the first time with ease, and then it was terrible. Well, hello. How are you? Please introduce yourself to the audience, please.
I am Hilary Sheinbaum. I am a journalist, and I am the author of The Dry Challenge.
Well, Hilary, thank you for joining us on the show. One, I want to tell us a little bit more about where you're from, where you grew up, kind of the background behind Hilary. Who is she?
Yeah, so I grew up in South Florida. I was born in New York, but Florida's home. This is where I spent elementary, middle, high school, and college. So I graduated from high school. I attended the Florida State University for 2 years, and then I transferred to the University of Florida, which if you are Floridian or if you're familiar with college football, it's very controversial to do that. The Seminoles and the Gators are enemies. But it was a really great experience. Honestly, I drove around Gainesville with a Florida State license plate and never had my car keyed. So I attribute that to, I don't know, Gators are nice. So are the Seminoles. And yeah, from Florida, I moved to New York. My first job actually, though, out of college was as a stringer for Us Weekly. So I interviewed the cast of the Jersey Shore while they were filming in Miami. Not to date myself or anything, but yeah, that was like kind of my first big interview. And I moved to New York. I got a job in public relations. I quickly learned that was not the path for me. And soon after, I started freelancing. And one of my main gigs for about 5 years was as a red carpet reporter for a lot of weekly magazines. So I spent quite a number of nights interviewing celebrities on the red carpet, and it was really fascinating. And it was definitely a dream job while I was in my 20s. But as any New Yorker will tell you, going out every night can get really exhausting. And as I was, approaching my late 20s, it wasn't suiting me the same way. And so I started contributing to, I had always contributed to other publications when I was a red carpet reporter. I was writing about food and beverage for, USA Today and Eater, and covering the cocktail scene. And it's funny because around that time, it was, 2016, and going into 2017, which kind of takes me into my book, I proposed a bet with one of my best friends. And it was about doing a dry January. And so that's what really started the book. And that's what kind of kicked off my introduction into this world of sober curiosity, non-alcoholic stuff. So I know I just said a mouthful, but that's the beginning.
Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, if you take all of your experiences and you combine them and you reflect on them, who have you become, and why do you think you are here?
That is a very deep question. I think that all of the experiences that I've had have really, you know, very much enabled me to be able to speak on so many topics, right? Because while I was a red carpet reporter for so many years, and that was my day job, but really like my night job, I had the privilege of being able to meet and interview, you know, really like big names in the beauty industry and in food. And I mean, like, we're talking world renowned chefs. And I've been so lucky to be able to travel and really, report on things firsthand. And we're talking about, yeah, everything from beauty, food, fitness, health, um, just culture in general. And I think that it's really had it's been such a great learning experience. I always say that being a freelance writer is like being a college student during finals week. You're always on deadline, you are always learning, and you're always trying to get across, the information as succinctly as possible, and in kind of an entertaining way. So um I think that, you know, when I was in high school, I really wanted to be a red carpet reporter, and I never thought that there was life past that. And I was so lucky and really fortunate to have that experience. But I also think that the things that have come after and also outside of that world have been just so great and so um educational. Like, it can't be replaced, you know what I mean? So
Man,
yeah, it was a great question. Yeah, I feel very lucky.
I love it. I love it. Talk to me about the person who decided to chase her dreams. Talk to me about the pivotal moment that you had when you're like, you know what? Was it college when you went from Florida State to the University of Florida, which I know is a huge move. My mentor actually went to FSU. My first college football game. I live in Columbia, Missouri, so we have the University of Missouri here. My first college football game was FSU, a bowl game. So I remember it so vividly, and he wanted me to go, and I was like, no, university. But
Yeah.
but who was this person that decided to go chase his dreams? Talk to me about her. Tell me a little bit.
Yeah, wow, it's interesting. I think, like, she's changed, right? It's an evolution. So I think that at a very young age, like middle school, I always knew I wanted to write a book. I didn't know what it was about. I honestly probably, like, thinking back, I wanted to be a novelist. And I think that as I, grow up, in high school, I was the yearbook editor. And then in college, I wrote for the school newspaper. And I also, got to take reporting classes at University of Florida. And I think all of those experiences really opened my eyes to new things, right? So even at like Florida State, like, I was interviewing, um, the individual who was embodying Chief Osceola, and asking about like game day prep. And it really was opening my eyes to how other people were living their lives, not just as like students, but definitely as icons for, these major universities,
Mm.
and what it takes to be, mentally prepared and also physically prepared, and have all these eyeballs on you. So I think that, you know each each step of the way, I think, was just like another, um just like a progressional, like, change and shift. Because I think that once I think it's kind of like human nature. Like, once you get somewhere, you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? So I think on all levels, in middle school, I wanted to be a novelist. In high school, I was determined to be the editor in chief of Teen People, which doesn't exist anymore. And I always had this fascination with, like, celebrity news and that sort of thing. So once I reached that point, and I had interviewed everyone from, the Kardashian Jenners to Brad Pitt to every Real Housewife and like Meryl Streep. I mean, we are talking like really big names. And once I was there and I did it and I experienced it, and I was just like, okay, what's next for me? And um, ironically, my book was not necessarily in the cards. Like, I never thought I would write a book about not drinking, especially given how much I had been writing about wine, beer, and spirit. But I think that each step of the way, I think that me as a person, I've always thought to myself, you know, what's the next step? And like, could I do this job better? Like, how can I be better tomorrow? How can I, in a work sense, like further myself, even just like a teeny bit every day? It doesn't have to be like a monumental, jump. It doesn't have to be something like insane or like splashy. It's just like, all right, like who did I, come across today? What's an interesting tidbit that like I learned? And yeah, I think that is like the biggest part. It's just like, what can I learn today?
Mm.
So yeah, always
I,
always curious.
I love it. I love it. The constant evolution is real, and no matter if people are sober curious or people are coming out of treatment centers or if people are trying to like white knuckle this, like the reason why is always going to evolve,
Mhm.
and who we become always evolves. I truly believe, I've been alcohol free for over 6 years now. And just knowing that the beginning of my journey was forced just through decisions that I made coming up throughout my life. And now as I look back, I'm like, yo, that was the best thing put on me because of who I've evolved into. So I love the depth of that, of who you were in elementary to who you are now. So it leads me to asking, how can or how do you fight this sense of arrival? When we get there, we're always climbing. We're talking about personal growth, and everybody's talking about being better. I heard a wonderful quote the other day. It was, if we have no desire to be better tomorrow, then what is the point of having tomorrow? And I was like, wow, okay, all right, that's deep. Like, wow. So how do we fight this sense of arrival? Just from your perspective, or how do you?
It's interesting because I think that that sense of arrival, I think that people want that, but never feel it. I think it's the opposite, right? I don't, it's hard to explain, but I think that sometimes people believe that once they accomplish something, they're like, my life is going to fall into place. Like, once I get the job, once I get the promotion, once I get, you know, whatever it is, engaged, married, have a baby, like whatever that pivotal moment. And these are like huge milestones, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that there's ever for anyone this achievement that makes everything in their life complete, right? So it's not necessarily about getting to that destination. No matter what, there's always going to be pieces of your life that are, you know, in need of your attention, right? Like, and it's not about striving for like perfection necessarily. I think that it's also just being like accepting of, only so many things can be done in a day, and trying your best, and also being comfortable with, you know, a little at a time. Because again, like you can't be like a gold medalist in the, maybe you can, I don't know. I feel like somebody let me know if this happens, but I feel like you can't be like, the number one spot in literally everything, because there's only so much time. Like you just can't, like, you can't be in seven places at once. But I think, if you are really um like great at something, there's always room for, improvement everywhere else. And so like, and vice versa. Like, maybe, I mean, I'm trying to think of something like that I just am really, really terrible at, which might just be sleeping these days. Like, I should really turn myself my attention to sleep, like better quality sleep. But you know, it's all about like what you're making a priority.
Yes, priority is huge, and I always tell everybody, when everything becomes a priority, that means nothing's a priority.
Yeah.
And you can't be pulled in too many directions, like you were saying. You can't be number one in everything. I look at the wheel of life, and I'm like, yo, break it down to your mind, your body, your soul, your intimate relationships, your networking relationships, your business, and your finances. Look at those and become 1% better in each of those categories, and all around that life that you're trying to build and sustain and probably achieve for more is going to level out, and you're going to feel like you're in control of it. And
Yeah.
so that's something that's extremely crucial with battling that sense of arrival. So of course that takes me to another question, because I love this conversation. And but talk to me about failure. Talk to me about your biggest failure. Who did you become after your biggest failure?
Oh my God. I mean, how much time do we have? I fail every day, like consistently. I think it's so obvious that, and I do this, everybody does this. You talk and you show and you um, are excited, obviously, about your win. And so you mentioned earlier, Good Morning America, and that has been, a goal of mine that was achieved, and I'm so grateful. And it's been such an amazing experience. But I mean, behind the scenes, I get told no all day, every day. As a freelance writer, a large part of your job is pitching ideas, and you might not even hear back or get feedback or told to no. But certainly, if we talk about ghosting, it's like it's not even ghosting. It's like there's no connection. Like sometimes people just don't even respond, and you're like, "Hello, is anyone out there?" But I think that's like a big thing that you just can't take personally, right? Like, but when we talk about failures, I mean, I've definitely failed many times. I think like if there's one story that I get approved from, there's likely that it's one out of 10, or sometimes even like 1 out of 20. Like sometimes it just doesn't stick. And I think the takeaway is that like no matter if you're failing, it's like you gotta maybe shift your strategy a little bit, or whatever it is, like depending on what it is you're trying to achieve. Yeah, I feel a lot. It's great. I actually like I find closure being told no, rather than like what we just talked about, like screaming into the ether and being like, "Hey, did you get my email?" I'd rather somebody be like, "It's not a fit," and bonus points if they tell me why. But yeah, I mean, that's the fit. I've not landed pitches. I've definitely not, booked segments, and like not gotten, my question to be answered by like celebrities on the red carpet. I mean, it's just like part of the job. You're just like, you definitely develop a thick skin, but at this stage, I don't know if it's even a thick skin. I think it's just like business as usual. Like you accept that like sometimes it's just not a fit.
I love it. Fail daily. Fail daily. If you guys don't take anything from this podcast right here, if you're like, I don't know what these people are talking about, just take this. Fail daily. Like that's so beautiful. Like, because that's the only thing that's going to keep you going. People come to me all the time and they're like, Jay, I want to talk about confidence and building confidence. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing that builds confidence is competence.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And also just like it's knowing that maybe whatever like is being, it's almost like whatever you're up against just might not, it might be the wrong time, it might be the wrong person, it might be the wrong angle, it just might be whatever. I don't know, maybe your email did get lost, which who knows? But like, that's okay. You gotta keep trying. Different avenues, different angles, different people, different ideas, you know? Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What was your happiest accident?
Oh my God. I mean, the book was an accident. And it's really crazy to think about because my life has changed. I wouldn't say like actually that's a little dramatic. My life has it has changed, not like in the sense of like, oh, everything's great, like I mentioned before, but my lifestyle has changed. So in 2016, when I was still doing red carpets and I was writing about wine, dinner, and spirit, I was, going to after parties and going to like these great social events, and the after parties had like top shelf liquor and expensive bottles of champagne, and I was allowed to drink when I was going to these parties. It wasn't like encouraged, but it wasn't discouraged. It was just kind of like, have fun, get your job done, and like it's fine. And I was also dating, and dating in New York is definitely different than a lot of cities or places because nobody drives. So you don't have to worry about, you know, driving under the influence. You take a cab, you take the subway, you walk, that sort of thing. And so I think that people definitely take advantage of that. And I think, and I was going to parties and like just, being social with my friends or going to happy hours. And so anyway, this is 2016. And on New Year's Eve, I made a bet with one of my very close guy friends, and it was super spontaneous. The week before, we had dinner, and he asked me what my New Year's resolutions were, and I thought he was being ridiculous because, like, and we talked about dry January. It didn't suit my life, so I was like, I just like blew off the conversation. And then lo and behold, the ball's about to drop, and I'm like, hey, do you want to, make a bet? Like, let's see who could do dry January. And he was like, yeah, I'm in. And I thought my odds were really good. He was my +1 to everything, and he loved to go out. And he thought his odds were great because of my lifestyle and my job. And, 31 days later, well, sooner than that, he lost. And then 31 days later, I completed my sober month, my first dry January. And so it's crazy to me to think that if I hadn't sent him a text and initiated this bet, then and mind you, even before my book came out, I did more dry Januaries. I did more sober months, and I realized that when I was not drinking consistently, my mood was better. My my retention, my mental health felt, healthier, and my sleep was better, and just everything was great. Not perfect, but so much it had improved. And so when I say like so much has changed in my life, it's not even necessarily the book, although that has, obviously brought about new conversations and new friends and new opportunities, but certainly like just the way that my life has changed. Because these days, like if I go to a party, like I'm not drinking. Like I'm literally the person bringing in like a non-alcoholic bottle of wine, and people come to me and they talk to me about like, oh, I'm thinking about doing a dry month, instead of like, oh my God, did you check out this like cool new cocktail bar, which like I'm still open to like hearing about. But then my first question is like, do they have mocktails? Do they have non-alcoholic cocktails or, options? But anyway, to answer your question, because now we're going on a tangent, I think that was definitely one of the happiest things that came out of such a spontaneous text conversation. Like, who would have thought? Like, it's so random, but truly, like, if I never sent that text, like, we wouldn't be talking, like, where would my life be? I don't know. Interesting, right?
Happy accident.
Yeah.
Happy accident. Yeah, they're good sometimes. They're good sometimes. I always try to make the shift to intentional accidents, right? Intentional growth, right?
Yeah.
But no, when I truly believe that life can only be understood backwards, but we're forced to experience it forward. And so when we pause and reflect, we allow growth to catch up with us. And so when I say happy accident, it's something we loved and something we learned, right?
Yeah.
Um, with with that being said, eh, let me ask you if you had to make a 20-second phone call to your future self, what would
Ooh,
you say?
my future self?
No questions. You just gotta
Oh,
tell her something.
I just, I don't know. But I mean, no questions. Jeez, I don't even know. I just be like, yo, hope everything's going well. Like, I mean, how many years are we talking? We talking like a year, 5 years, 10 years?
Whenever you want.
I feel like if it's anything past like 10 years, I'd be like, I hope, God, I hope the planet is still around. Like, I don't know. It's the environment situation kind of stressful, but I would just say like, hope all is going well. Like, you're still alive. Keep going. I don't know. I don't know. I
I
do
love
have questions, but I guess
it.
they would go unanswered.
Yo, I love it, and a lot of people ask about your past self, and I'm like, yo, I I feel me, past me could have used some words, and that's why I want to give them a future me in case I
Yeah.
need some words. Then, um, let me ask you, what has, if you could put a smell to the past 6 years of your life,
Hmm.
what would it be?
Something spicy, I guess. Like a cinnamon, like a, like something like nice, but like also like stuff's happening. Like, nothing mellow. It's gonna be
Nothing
like
mellow.
red hots. Like that's the first thing that came to mind. It's like, you know what I mean?
Like the chips, the red hots.
No, like the candies. Because they're
Okay.
they're they're spicy and sweet. There we go.
Spicy.
I don't know.
I love it.
What's funny is like I never ate those as a kid, but like I feel like I would eat them now.
Living life on the edge, right?
Really.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, if you would give the audience some words of encouragement, anything that you think that somebody needs to hear, something that you carry dear with you. What's the best piece of advice that you think you've ever gotten?
Ooh, I don't know, but that's the big one. I don't know about the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I think it's like important to learn something every day.
Mhm.
And I think, it's also important, and this is very on brand for a journalist. I think it's important to ask the right questions, but it's most important to ask the right people. And what I mean by that is I think that a lot of the times when we look for advice, we ask people who are closest to us in our inner circle. But they might try their best, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they might not know what the correct answer is, right? So if you're asking relationship advice and you're asking a group of friends who, maybe they've never been in a relationship or aren't in a healthy situation or are, struggling with their own personal issues and they think that they know the right um, answer, that's totally normal. Like, and maybe they do know the right answer. But I think more often than not, it would be best to ask a relationship expert those questions, right? Or, for example, like when it comes to, you know, skincare, like you would ask a dermatologist. You wouldn't necessarily ask a heart surgeon, which who they probably have some, idea of, how to take care of the skin. Obviously, they're medical doctors. But if you're looking for, specific information about the subject, I mean, I think that it's best to ask people who are truly intertwined in those worlds. And again, you might not get the answer that you're looking for, but I do think that sometimes we rely on, the quickest answer or the one that maybe suits best. And so I always say, like, it's it's important to ask the right questions. It's more important, I think, to ask the right sources. And also, as a journalist, you always want to get more than one source. So you can get a second opinion and a third one. And I think that that helps, you make decisions in life. So yeah, I would just say like it's really important to learn things, ask questions, and ask follow-up questions too.
That's huge. That's huge because I've always led with if you want the right answers, ask the right questions. But I love that ask the right people. That's so
Yeah,
huge. Yeah, that's huge.
because
That's huge.
you could know what you want to what you want to uncover, right? But if you're gonna ask me about like archaeology, I'm just gonna be like, cool, dinosaurs are cool. Like that's all I'm gonna know. Like my education on dinosaurs and like I don't know stuff like that, it's very limited. You know?
Right, right. No, that's huge. That's huge, and that's why I always say do an environment check of the people that you have around you. Do an environment check of the people that you're learning from, right? And know that if you're the smartest person in the class, you're in the wrong classroom. That is something that I carry with me. Be teachable. Be teachable. Hilary, please tell everybody where they can find you, what you got going on. Shameless plug, please.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Hilary with one L, Hilary, right? WRITESNY. Also HilarySheinbaum.com. And my book is available, Barnes and Noble, Target, Amazon, or you can ask your local bookstores to order so we can, support independent businesses. But yeah, I would also say like I get it. Like if you don't want to read 224 pages, me telling you how not to drink per month, I would say like start with some alternatives. And like if you are a wine drinker, I would definitely recommend checking out like Starlow Wines, which is, alcohol removed. And if you're like a cocktail connoisseur, try Free Spirits Company. They make non-alcoholic gin, bourbon, tequila, and some other stuff. And there's this amazing website called Better Roads. Roads RHODES. And they just have like such a plethora of options. So like whatever your drink of choice is, you can find non-alcoholic beers, wines, spirits, pre-made cocktails, like everything. So I really think like I really do believe in actionable items. It's easy for me to say like don't drink for 31 days, but then it's like how do I do that? And I think that depending on your preferences, some people maybe don't want to try non-alcoholic options. I think I can only speak for me. I think they're wonderful. I really do encourage them. But you got to find what's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Find what's right for you. And that's why we have these conversations. And that's why it's so important, guys. Like, what worked for me isn't going to work for you, and it's not going to work for everybody. What worked for Hilary may not work for you, and it may not work for everybody. Like, we're standing on two sides of the different table, right? Like, woke up in jail 6 months later, like, I'm not going to drink, right? Sends a text to her friend, let's do dry January.
Right.
Dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like there's such a large spectrum, right? There are people who are sober curious and they can drink and they can give it up, and it's not, a problem, or they don't think twice about it. And then there's the other side of the spectrum, which is, it's completely eliminated. Um, there are obviously, a lot of different um, like levels in between, for lack of a better word. But certainly, dry months and dry challenges are typically not for people with AUD or looking for a recovery program. I think, again, everybody is so different and has such a different relationship with alcohol. But I think that, starting at the very, kind of like sober curiosity side, I think giving up alcohol for any amount of time certainly can help you reevaluate your relationship with alcohol. So definitely talk to your doctor before doing any of these things. But yeah, to your point, like everybody has such a different story. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Hopefully we can have you back. But until next time, anything you want to leave us with, or are we done? What's up? You tell me.
I think that's it. I think this has been great. Thank you.
Absolutely.